And thanks for joining us for this web-only segment on the impeachment of Donald Trump and the Arizona impact. Joining us, Lorna Romero, a political and public relations consultant at Elevate Strategies, and a former top aide to Republican Governor Jan Brewer and Republican Senator John McCain. Also, Chris Herstam is here. He's a Democratic political analyst and columnist. He's served at every level of state government, the legislature, department head, and a governor's chief of staff. I want to start with the Senate, go straight to the Senate, and Kyrsten Sinema. That is the next step in the impeachment process. We don't know when it's going to happen, likely in January. Kyrsten Sinema has consistently avoided answering the question about how she would vote as a juror in the Senate. Here's what she told the Arizona Republic last week. Quote, senators have a constitutional duty to treat this process with the gravity and impartiality that our oaths demand. I will uphold that responsibility, free of partisan politics, regardless of the attitudes displayed by some elected officials in both parties. That has been Sinema's position since the impeachment inquiry formally began 3 months ago. Chris, Sinema is a mystery. What do you think she will do if and when this hits the Senate?
Well, if she's going to follow what you just read, her quote, it's a cut and dried case, in my view. I mean, there was abuse of power, and he definitely interfered with the investigation by not turning over documents and allowing his top aides to testify before Congress. So if you take her for her word, I think she will vote at least on one of the articles. She'll find him guilty. But you just don't know with her. She's a flip of the coin. She avoids controversy. She's probably wishing she could vote present. My guess is she will have to vote yes for guilty, and it'll be fascinating to watch. If she doesn't, if she lets him off the hook and joins Martha McSally, first of all, it hurts Mark Kelly, in my view, in his race. And then she can just think about becoming a registered independent so she can avoid a Democratic primary 5 years from now.
Lorna, what's Kyrsten Sinema going to do?
I think she's taking a methodical approach. I think the way that she has framed her response to this question throughout the past few months really shows how she's taking her role as a jurist seriously. She is not letting partisan politics get in the way of this. This is a serious situation. This is a judicial process. This is when you're going to impeach a president. It shouldn't just be because you dislike him or his party, et cetera. And so she's really going to look at the evidence and come down on it. But I do think at the end of the day, she'll probably end up voting against it. But I think she's going to do her due diligence.
Let's go to the contrast with Senator Martha McSally, who is running to win her seat next fall. She's been dodging reporters' questions about impeachment, finally stopped talking to us altogether over the last month or two. But in private, she has told Republicans a very different story. Let's listen to what she said to Tucson Republican activists last weekend, in audio obtained by 12 News.
We have a similar sort of shrewd, strategic objective about how to address this and how to stick it to these guys for overreaching.
The Senate will stick it to Democrats for overreaching on impeachment, also saying they are the ones who committed abuse of power. Should McSally adopt just a little more moderate tone?
So her campaign did issue a statement after that audio recording came out, explaining that to date she has not seen any evidence that would cause her to support impeachment. But I don't disagree with her statement about how Democrats have been handling it. With the exception of Kyrsten Sinema, who's taking a more level-headed approach, this has just become a political football for folks. And I do think at some point this is going to backfire on Democrats. I have been a Trump critic. But I do think that they're taking this to the extreme and taking a process that should be handled carefully and diligently and just turning it into just a political tool for 2020, and that's unfortunate.
Chris?
Nobody's above the law, including the President of the United States, and bravo to the House Democrats for holding the President accountable. If you don't nail him on this, for this abuse of power and his obstruction of the congressional investigation, he'll just keep doing it even worse, and it sets a horrible precedent for future presidents. McSally has embraced Trump constantly. That is her meal ticket to survive Republican primaries. Everybody's known from day one that she was going to vote against impeachment, and she'll vote against both articles. And in my opinion, this is the nail in the coffin, and she'll lose her Senate seat to Mark Kelly.
Okay, so let's look ahead to the way Arizona voters are going to perceive this over the next several months leading up to November. How big a deal could this be in their minds and shift opinions, and in the Senate race in particular?
Well, I think you've seen recently the favorability of impeachment has dropped significantly nationally. The majority of Arizona voters
I'm not sure about that.
There was a poll that came out that showed at least it's dropped 13 points amongst Democrats. Look it up, folks. There was a whole thing about it on MSNBC recently. It's been dropping, and so I think you're going to continue to see it because it's turning into a circus. It's not serious anymore. How much of an impact it's going to have on 2020? I don't know. It depends on how long people, delay this process and how much people are going to talk about it. But voters there's going to be another issue that pops up at some point before November 2020. I don't know how much impeachment's going to move the needle.
If you look
Probably right about that.
If you look at the Republican-leaning poll that just came out this past week here in Arizona, George Califf's
Data Orbital.
Data Orbital. I mean, it's not unexpected. 87% of the Republicans are against impeachment. 86% of the Democrats are for impeachment. You'd expect that. The key is the independents. That will decide the election outcomes here in Arizona and nationally. And according to Data Orbital, 54% of independents in Arizona, likely voters, now support impeachment. The independents were against impeachment this past summer, but after the hearings have taken place, the independents have now shifted more into a pro-impeachment camp. That's good news for Democrats.
All right, got to end it there. Lorna Romero, Chris Herstam, thanks so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.